It is 5:45 p.m. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And in the spirit of reconciliation, we as the town of Diamond Valley acknowledge and pay tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai First Nations, the Dene Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, which includes Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations, and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our council meeting. We are in a very temporary location in the former Black Diamond Council Chambers. It's, as you can see, if we would have panned the camera, this has undergone quite a bit of a change since then, since we last met. Our first meeting in September will be in our new council chambers above the mezzanine at the arena. So please look for that. Because it's been a while since we met here, let's remind ourselves of where to go in the event of emergency. So we'll just make our way out the doors that are here on the north side, and we'll go to the front parking lot near the Diamond. There's some signage there. Washrooms are located on my left near the back of this room, and we encourage you to use them accordingly. First up, we have our consent agenda. Is there any need to pull anything off, team? Or
Yeah,
do
I wanted to pull the police report off.
Pull the police report off, so we will move that to 9.6. Consent police report. Is there anything else? All right, seeing none. Councillor Allen, you want to make the motion to accept as amended?
Yes.
All right, so we have the motion to adopt a consent agenda. And Colin, I'll assume they're voting in favor. Anytime you're voting in opposition, I'll have you speak up only at that time.
Sounds good.
Perfect. So we have the consent agenda as amended, open for adoption. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. That gives us an opportunity then to move down to the adoption of the regular agenda as amended. That's from Councillor Martin. Do we have any additional items, Lisa, that have come across her plate?
No, we do not.
All right, and in saying that, I get to host and chair the meeting tonight. Mayor Kelly, pardon me, is enjoying the last of his summer holidays. So we encourage him to enjoy his time away. And our CAO is on an extended holiday as well. And so hopefully, he was in Hawaii, so I should have actually texted to see if the hurricane or the tropical storm impacted him. So no news, I suppose, is good news at this time. But Lisa Zier, our Director of Finance, I don't even know exactly what your title is, but
Director of Corporate Services.
Director of Corporate Services, thank you for the correction. I should make that note. But she's our interim CAO and will be helping me throughout the meeting tonight. So we have a motion from Councillor Martin to accept the agenda, the regular agenda, as it's been amended. All in favor? Perfect, and that is carried unanimously. So I'll need to take a motion here at 5:48 to move into a closed session.
Okay.
That's from Councillor Bros. All in favor to move into closed at 5:48? Perfect, so closed at 5:48. From shared services agreement and under Alberta's, just slipped my mind, the Access to Information Act, 26.1, we dealt with some confidential information. I am going to call the meeting back into order here at 6:01, and Councillor Morton will join us shortly. Just a reminder, when we have our agenda, which you might have seen posted online, we have two separate agendas that we deal with. We have a consent agenda, which has a variety of material from emails from residents, from staff reports, from other administrative inquiries that are given to us. We as council read these and they become part of our file, and they are part of the agenda package, so they are a permanent record. Many of the different emails that we've received, we've responded already, but we've made sure that we've added them here. So in the event that there's some expecting that to be dealt with tonight, I just wanted to mention that. This is our temporary location as well. We are moving into the mezzanine at the arena for our first meeting in September, which is September 2nd, I believe, right? So that'll be an excellent opportunity to have that. That's currently undergoing its final touches of the renovations. Just a quick reminder, if we have any emergency, we want to head out the doors here on the north. The muster point is out by the Diamond, and we have municipal enforcement here with us somewhere in the back in case they want to lead us in the event of emergency. So we're going to continue we have no motions arising from our closed meeting. We do have 2 questions that have been submitted by residents prior to our meeting. And just a reminder that if you do have questions for council, we ask that you submit your questions in writing no later than 12 noon of the day of the meeting. This gives us opportunity to provide a proper answer, do the necessary research, and provide it forward. Our first question is from John Boyd, and he wants to know what is the net benefit, if any, of having a national historic site within our community. He goes on to talk about the fact that the gas plant designation and land is federally owned. It's quite pathetic in terms of, and by the way, this are his opinions and not mine. He says it's quite pathetic in terms of looking at the local benefits this designation has on the community. After more than a century of energy production from the very geological formation called Turner Valley, this community should have streets of gold and abundant infrastructure to keep its citizens active and viable. Alas, there are still gravel roads in the community, an outdoor pool after 65 years in certain peril. Continual operations of local energy industry supports a very limited number of local talent, and services are outsourced from outside the community. The land is basically useless for future economic development in business and residential. Underground utilities are kept in ground and serve nothing but a hindrance for this future development. The ongoing maintenance of this historic site, not sure if they use local business. Is there any payment from the federals of ongoing development issues and environmental reclamation? What is the current rate of taxes collected from ongoing operations that are located within the town limits? Furthermore, John states that this is a sad state of affairs, that we need to increase residential tax bases to keep the community viable, while a historic site that once powered the war machine of World War II to defeat the Nazis is now a hindrance. So I do have some data that I want to share with us, and then I'll give some answers about the taxes and how that might work. I'm a big fan of the Turner Valley Gas Plant. I do want that on record. I think it's important that we have that as a historic site. It is the birthplace of Western Canada's first commercial oil field, marked by the 1914 Dingham No. 1 discovery well. It was also the first petroleum processing facility west of Ontario, and from World War I through the late 1940s, grew to become the largest natural gas processing plant in Canada's largest oil field. The site was first recognized as a provincial historic resource in 1989, and then a national historic site in 1995. The site represents a pivotal chapter in Alberta's development in Canada's energy history and industry. Currently, the Turner Valley Gas Plant historic site preserves and shares the stories of the people, the innovations, and the challenges that shape the Turner Valley oilfield region. Through education, tourism, and heritage programming, it supports the local economy, strengthens Diamond Valley's unique identity, and celebrates the region's important role in Alberta's history and Canada's energy industry. In its current state, the Turner Valley Gas Plant and its historic site is owned and managed by the government of Alberta. And if you want further information, I'm sure we'll put this on the site, but you can access the turnervalleygasplant.ca and you will find a contact there. Now, a couple of points that I want to make here. The historic site itself, because it's a historic site, does not receive any tax revenue. That's a reality. However, the Ranhan Oil and Gas Company purchased the gas plant, where you still see it flaring and the different production. We do receive tax revenue from that, so that's a bonus. One thing to keep in mind as well is John mentioned the underground services that are still in operation. We every year receive a linear foot of taxation per linear foot of pipeline. Now that rate is under the full control of the provincial government. We have no control about setting those rates. We'd love to. When we do want to increase those rates, there's an application process to follow through, and it's quite laborious. So we do still receive taxation from the historic element, the linear foot, and then the part of the gas plant is still there. And if I may add, how many of you have seen Ghostbusters 4? The gas plant was there. So it is still an attraction. And I do know that schools from Calgary do come down and use it on a regular basis for field trips. And so that does bring an economic element. So thank you, John, for that. And I trust that you're satisfied with that response. Our second question comes from Dusty Williams. And he asked a question related to the agenda item that we had in our last meeting when we were reviewing, actually, is that part of tonight's agenda package? It is, right? About putting the second lift on the First Avenue
It's on
road work
tonight.
that was done, which is just north of here. Dusty asked this question. He says, council has previously indicated that life cycle costs are considered in municipal decisions. The First Avenue report, which we have on our agenda tonight, provides a good example of this. And the question herein, does our town have a consistent documented process for evaluating life cycle costs on capital projects? And could this analysis be more viable or be made more visible, pardon me, in the future council reports? That's a great question, Dusty. And I am quite convinced that our council is very transparent in administration with how we, first of all, set forward projects like this, the work that is done, the reports that have come forward. On a regular basis, we have our capital project budget that extends for the next year, but then we also have a forecast well into advance. I think we mandated to have at least a 5-year forecast, and we have some even in extent of that. So we have the cost well in advance. When it then comes to council, prior to the year when it's slated on our schedule, council will then have a very detailed report about whether or not we have the necessary funds to move forward, how those funds may be drawn from different reserves, from different grants, and if we have to debenture, which means a loan against it. I want to make sure that that our community is aware of how we're working from a financial perspective, because it is one of our strategic priorities and it has been for several years, is to be as transparent as possible, to be very honest with what we're doing with the finances that we receive and the budget responsibilities we have. So bear with me, I have 3 paragraphs to read here regarding the work that we do when it comes to financial responsibility, transparency, and how we work through projects like we have on First Ave. And let me preface that by saying we're coming under budget by almost 500 grand with that First Ave. So that's huge kudos to the work that's been done. So council has consistently emphasized the importance of considering life cycle costs when making decisions on capital infrastructure projects. Administration incorporates life cycle considerations into project evaluations through capital planning, asset management, and budgeting processes. Depending on the nature of the project, this can include consideration of initial construction costs, ongoing operating and maintenance requirements, expected service life, and eventual replacement costs. The First Avenue project, since Dusty mentioned that, I'll mention it now and you'll see it later on in our agenda. This is a good example of this approach, as the analysis considers not only the upfront construction costs of the available options, but also the longer term costs and implications associated with maintaining and renewing the infrastructure over its lifespan. I do want to underscore that. That's an important part of what we do with our capital infrastructure projects. We are making certain that what is the maintenance of that, but then as well, what's that infrastructure over its lifespan? That's a huge, important element in our budgeting process. And I'm sure you can imagine, we have an infrastructure asset management plan that we should be seeing finalized here in the next 6 to 8 weeks, hopefully. And that will give us insight about what we actually are responsible for. Tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure that we are responsible for. And we have to make these decisions about what we're doing on a timely fashion. What are we going to do for full replacement? John Boyd mentioned we have gravel roads in town, and that's true. And the reason for that is we have water leaks underneath. And it's very costly to go in, do the deep services repairs, and then pave over top of that without first identifying where those issues are, repairing them first before we have another issue 50 feet down the road. And I will say this, I don't want to be the Bow River or the Bow feeder main in Calgary where they fix it and 100 meters up the road it blows and they have to do it all over again. Extensive cost. So I appreciate the manner in which our Director of Public Works is overseeing these types of projects, giving council timely awareness of what needs to happen. And that comes into the final paragraph. Life cycle costs are considered as part of project evaluation. However, the level of detail presented in council reports, it does vary, and it varies depending on complexity as well as the stage of the project. And so when I think of the stage of the project, is it shovel ready? we'll have much more detail when it is shovel ready than when it's 5 years forecast. 5-year forecast based on some engineering about what may or may not happen given on life cycles of various elements within. So we've got to be very cognizant of that reality. So Dusty, really appreciate your question there and the opportunity that you've given us as council to highlight what our process is and how we work with administration to make sure that we're there in that. So that's question period. Team, do we have any motions that would arise from question period? I don't see any, but do you guys have any motions that need to come from that? All right, we don't. All right, this will move on to our delegation, 7.1, Darcy Boris. I believe that's this gentleman sitting, where's Darcy? Right there. Darcy, why don't you come right to the front here, one of these chairs? And Darcy, you've got a request that you want to present to council.
I own properties for both properties on 429 and 215 Black Diamond, Maplewood Drive, and 4th Ave. And I've been due diligent in my taxes and paying them. I paid actually over $100,000 in tax base for the last 20 years that I've owned them. Kind of totally refurbished them, paid the taxes on both of the houses that were in arrears. And I missed one payment because you did not have my correct email address and didn't send, last year was the first year that you didn't send paper copies of. So it was, I missed in that I was away on holidays, and when I got back 2 weeks later, I came in to pay them and there was a huge interest charge, which I didn't pay, paid my taxes, but didn't pay. And then following year, it's carried on. So here to see if there's any kind of pardon that you could give. Like I said, I've been paying the taxes for 20 years that I've owned the houses. Over $100,000 in revenue and taxes that I've paid. And I got penalized for being 2 weeks late on the taxes. So.
All right, well, thank you for coming and presenting your concerns, council. Do we have any questions, comments here?
Yeah, I just want to get the information, because the information we have is that it was mailed, paper copies were mailed. So the email address has nothing to do with it. Okay, so that is.
They weren't mailed that year. Last year, I didn't get anything. So I was told that, actually, not to put you under the bus, but I was told Becky said that it was the first year that we didn't do that.
Yeah, that's, if you direct any questions to us, that would be appreciated. Yeah, we appreciate that. The reality is back in 2025, we made some changes. And in order for assessments to be received electronically, the owner of the properties had to request that and submit that. And we then would receive a consent form and put that on. Our files show very clearly that you didn't register for those electronic notices until November 2025, which is obviously almost 4 months after those notices were due. Because you didn't register, our files show that you would have received those by mail. And that's the reality. Whether your email address was currently on file, it's not relevant to that occurrence. And that's where we stand today.
Well, it was relevant because you would have taken the email address like with any other.
But we wouldn't use it without consent, so it's irrelevant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So even if I have your email on, and that's part of Canada's privacy laws, whether it's the federal one, which would have been FOIP at the time, which is now AITA, the provincial one that covers public services, or even our PIPEDA or PIPA on the personal side of things. We can't send out emails unless there's consent on file. Where we're going to stand with this is the same response you got in our February 7th, 2024 meeting, is that we have been very consistent in our approach, and we need to make sure that we remain consistent in that approach. The tax deadline is consistently advertised, it's well advertised, and to reverse any penalties would set a precedent that this council has not made. I've served on council for 9 years. We've had different requests from others in our community over the last 6 months, and we are not in a position to set that precedent. We thank you very much for sharing your concerns with us.
It's unfortunate that the town council now is different than it was before, so you guys are open for business before the last house. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, we have no motions coming from that. Action items. I'll have administration start the ball off here on 9.1, team.
Deputy Mayor, may I have just a moment? I have someone joining online that may need to speak.
Oh, perfect. Please make sure they're there.
I'm really short.
All right, moving in on our agenda, just give me that.
Valerie, can you hear me clearly? Valerie?
Yes.
Perfect. I think we can hear you now, Valerie. Thank you. Your item is starting on the agenda, so I just wanted to confirm you that you are there.
Yes, I am.
We're good?
Yep.
So hopefully Valerie can hear us. We have a development permit 116-2024, a development permit or DP, hotel and storage with liquor. This is for a facility at 206 Main Street. And Carrie, for the, why don't you begin, I'll have you begin. The fact that this land is zoned direct control. We have many residents here that may be here interested in this. Could you explain the process of development or a direct control zone, what that is before we get into the details? And the way I'd like to go through with this team, if you're okay, is we'll listen to the material that Carrie, Ms. Florzone will present. Then we'll have the applicant do their presentation, and then we'll open it up for discussion and any motions that come out of that. So Carrie, why don't you take that away for us?
Fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gordon, Carrie Florzone, Planning and Development Manager for the town of Diamond Valley. A direct control district is unique in that council has direct control over the district. So typically when a development permit application comes in, it comes to my department, we evaluate it against the land use bylaw criteria that council has set in the land use bylaw, and we render a decision. In a direct control, there can be a partial direction to administration to do some things, and then some things are still within the control of council. This district, the DC6 district in the Turner Valley land use bylaw, is more of what we consider a pure direct control. When I read through the district, nearly everything is at the discretion of council. And so that puts you in a really unique position today to do my job. And I am here obviously as a resource to that.
And thanks for clarifying that. This is a very unique district. The responsibility council is fully ours. Decisions we make is not appealable. That's one thing that needs to be noted as well. And so we have a very important decision ahead of us. I would almost say, based on the material in front of us in the agenda, this could very likely be one of the most important decisions we make with the impact that it has over the length, unimaginable impact that we are having from this one. So let's make sure if you have any notes, reserve your questions related. If you want to interrupt Carrie as she's going through for specific questions, that's great. But any discussion, let's leave that until after we've heard from the applicant. So Carrie, take it away from what is proposed in front of us.
Yeah, and my presentation is pretty short and sweet tonight. I will point out two typos in the header of the RFD and the subject of the staff report. It's permit 166/2024. So in the draft notice of decision, the file number is correct. It's just in the header of these two documents that that number got mixed up there.
So my header is
And the
116/2024.
permit is 166.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for clarifying.
So that we're approving the correct permit.
All right.
If that's the will of council.
Right on.
So the application is for a hotel. There is a spa component and then other regular amenities with a hotel, restaurant, and back of house type stuff. There's also a existing warehouse on the site for the storage of liquor, hence why there's also that storage common liquor included in the permit, is because it's still part of that site. We've worked very closely with the landowner and their agents. Nifty is in the audience. He's going to give you his presentation. I'm sure it's going to show all the beautiful aspects of the hotel. So I'm going to talk about more of the dry technical aspects and leave the pretty for him to go on with. So the hotel is an 84-room hotel, and for the most part, planning doesn't have any concerns. Like I said, we've worked very closely with a lot of very competent professionals. We've gone back and forth for years at this point. The last 6 months has been a really big push to get this across the finish line. And I think that we're in a really strong position here to recommend approval from council. There is a draft notice in your package that has been circulated internally and received the sign off of all of the town managers. And so there really isn't anything left for me to kind of highlight as a concern from our perspective. We're very happy with this application, and I think that it's a well-placed development given the confines of our planning documentation, our statutory plans, and our bylaw.
Yeah, well said. You know, one thing I do want to note, Carrie, and it might have just been an oversight, does this item support the deliverables in our strategic plan? The note here says no, but I would say yes. And it's more than likely an oversight because council has been very focused, and especially when we completed our municipal development plan just recently, our focus is on non-residential growth. And this is a huge element that it brings forward. Council, do you have any questions specifically to the staff report? Anything that you wanted to pull out from that? Go ahead, Cindy.
I just had a quick question on some of these maps. It talked about proposed subdivision lines, and then there's one 104 of 165 that then had a red line all around it that then made it look like the pathways on the west and the south side were outside of the boundaries. I don't know if they were just mistakes or if there's something more to this going on that I understand.
Yeah, so there is a proposal to subdivide out the liquor storage warehouse from the balance of the hotel. At that point, that subdivision is not complete, which is why you see the application before you for that entire parcel.
Okay. And then, I don't know if they can draw it up so you know what I'm talking about on 104 of 165.
Just a few more pages. Keep going.
Yeah,
We're losing our,
internet.
no, it's just a huge document and it doesn't
Yeah.
load
Yeah.
very
As far as
well.
loading.
Yeah,
I can
I-
answer on
not
that
the
one.
electrical, so it didn't even make sense to have it, but there was a red line going around saying property boundary.
Remind me who Valerie is.
Valerie is with the developer and Mr. Mayor,
She's the architect.
the architect.
Okay, she's the architect.
So part of the draft notice of decision in your package is to amend pretty much every plan. They're fairly minor amendments. So things like adding the legal land description, ensuring that all of the plans are consistent with one another. So it's our intent that if it is approved by council tonight, in principle, given the drawings in front of you, that those will be reviewed and signed off as prior to release before the permit is actually valid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the only subdivision is going to be for the warehouse out.
That's the proposal thus far.
Keep going.
And then one of the conditions talked about being material changes. My file's being slow too.
That's probably the notice of decision.
Yeah, in the notice of decision. So what do we have that how do we guide what's a material change and what's not?
Yeah, so that's common wording in our development notices. So material change would be anything that changes a use intensity or any of the regulations that we typically look at. So parking, landscaping, anything that would potentially open it up for re-review under the criteria of the land use bylaw.
So I have a question follow up on that, only because, and it might not be related at all, but there was a recent development here in town where they, and I've got to be careful identifying it. It was a public meeting, so I can, where the apartment building that they had originally had an X number of units in the apartment building, but they were gonna, instead of having, I think they were gonna divide one of the top floor units to make it an extra, and that brought forward a new development plan. So
Yes.
is that a substantial, because that to me is not a substantial change, but why, if it is, why would it be?
Yeah, so that would typically be considered a material change to the intensity of the use. You're adding a whole extra dwelling unit into a building. So that also affects things like parking. It did require an additional development permit to be approved for that unit. Again, because when the permit was issued, it's for a certain intensity, it's for a certain number of units. And if you're adding additional units, so if they went from 84 rooms to 91 rooms, we would expect an additional application for that intensity of use. Similarly, if a building is added onto, that's increasing intensity of use. If you add a suite to your home, that's intensity of use. If you add, let's say you have a small business where you offer hairdressing and you now want to offer something, sales of something in the back, that's intensity of use.
So a question on that, and it's a hypothetical, whatever might be an intensity of use, where along the stage, so this has happened before in the 9 years I've been on council, Cindy as well, Councilor Holiday as well, where we've had intensity of use changes. So hypothetically, let's say they're coming along, and I won't identify an intensity of use because it's hypothetical, but there is one. What kind of a process is that to resubmit? Is it a simple change? Is it a dramatic change? What kind of process are we looking at?
So for this specific site, because it is a direct control district that is reading as pure direct control, that would come back to council in a similar manner that this permit's before you. We would evaluate what the proposal is, the staff report together, present it to council for decision.
So it's much quicker than a separate zone because it's under DC. Potentially it's a quicker process. Am I reading that correctly?
I would say it's typically a slower process.
Even slower, right?
And anytime that we have to come to council, it's typically additional work for staff.
Yeah, because I kind of would like that a little bit clearer. I don't like such ambiguous terminology and permanent conditions. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the warehouse gets subdivided, is there a point in time where this property, I know we're reading our land use bylaw, can go from a DC back to a normal district? Is that ever being considered, or is this too unique of a use?
Through the chair, if council directed me tonight to proceed with putting this into a standard district, we could bring that back in front of council before the land use bylaw is done. There is nothing that would prevent this from being a conventional district, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not concerned because I know we can work on the application as it is now and we're already here, so I don't, but I'm just saying for future, when they do have to make amendments, to not have to come back to council over the years and decades, it might be nice to be back into a normal district. Okay, so that is possible.
Yes, and if I may further,
Please.
the direction that council has given me thus far on the new land use bylaw, we will be bringing it forward likely with no direct control districts included in the draft.
Yeah, certainty in planning is so critical, and we've discussed that at length to make certain we do that. All right, I know we have other questions that will come out of our discussion more than likely. Yeah, I think we'll deal with that more under discussion, Cindy, and take a look at how we want to do that, because I have a few other points as well. And I do want to mention some feedback from our mayor as well. He gave us some feedback by way of an email today. If there's nothing further, I'll thank Ms. Florzone for her time and the work that you've done in the staff report, and make sure you send our thanks to Judy McKenzie as well. I know she was quite instrumental in setting this up. At this time, I would like to invite the representatives of this hotel proposal to come and sit forward here and identify yourself. I think we have the architect Valerie online. Thank you for joining us. And we know Mr. David Fair of Oakland Distillery. Sir, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mehakdeep Timon. I'm the VP of Development with the PBA Group. Joining me here is David Friend. Everyone knows David. I don't have to introduce him. But I would like to start off with thanking Council first for giving us the opportunity to present this great project today, as well as the administration for the hard work that they have done to get us to this milestone. Without their tremendous effort in reviewing this application, we wouldn't have been here today. So thank you very much for your help. Before I get into the slides, I want to begin with why are we here today? And I want to say that like everyone knows that Diamond Valley is a unique destination in Alberta, right? People come here for its landscape, its Western heritage, to visit its local businesses, and experience Eau Claire Distillery, right? But then we're left with a question: how do we make them stay a bit longer? How do we get them to participate more in our local businesses, right? And produce that business for year round. And this development that we're going to go through is actually trying to answer that question. So if we can go to the next slide, please. And so what's unique about this development is the partnership behind it. The PBA Group, which has been around for more than 60 years, brings lots of development, construction, ownership, and hospitality experience. And on the other hand, David Friend brings the local roots, the vision, as well as the local roots with the Eau Claire Distillery. David, I'll let you introduce yourself further and talk a little bit about this project.
Yeah, well, I think I know most of you, and you know me and my presence here in the community. I guess I'll just start by saying how incredibly excited I am about this project. It has been a many-year project, bringing it to the fore, and it's not easy. It's sort of like good food. It takes many years to prepare, but we're finally here. And I think, for me, I'm a fourth generation resident in this area, and I've seen in my family, I've seen it go from a ranching community in the early 1900s to an oil community, and every part of the era of this community has sort of been part of its growth and its character. And now I think the time is for tourism. And I think, we are blessed with a place that is right next to the Rockies. We have all of the opportunities for fly fishing, for hiking, for horseback riding, all the things that we can do in the area. And we have a town that has an incredible character and history. And I think our job is to preserve that, but also to share it. And I think that is sharing it for prosperity, because the next era is really a benign industry for the town, which is tourism. It's we're not building a data center or something that's controversial. It's something that is definitely designed to fit within the community. So I'm very proud of this and very excited about what it's going to do. I think from an economic perspective, it answers a lot of the questions that I've seen that the town is trying to answer in terms of creating commercial viability and a new tax base. And I think it will be a catalyst for a lot of new businesses that will pop up, that will be around it, that will be prosperous as a result. I've been very excited to work with PBA, with Mahak, Patricia right here, who's the lead of PBA, because they are one of Alberta's leading hoteliers. I mean, they have great experience with the Dorian and with the Element and a number of hotels all through Alberta. These guys are a class act, and they know exactly how to build a hotel and do it well. So I think that's very important, and it will make it a real Alberta success story. The other thank you as we go forward that I want to thank is the incredible support that we've had for this project from Travel Alberta, from the highest levels, and Ken Spence is here to support us. And Travel Alberta have been part of kind of
developing the viability and all of the things that will help feed it and make it a very successful hotel. So really, for me, this is about community. It's a legacy project. I think it's going to do some amazing things, and I think we've been able to steward it with my knowledge and understanding of the community, that just to make it really so it fits. It's not a big gleaming tower. It speaks to all of the things that I think we think of: the arts, the ranching history, even the oil and gas history. All of those are incorporated into the design, and I know our architect is listening in, and we spent many an hour trying to show the character and the importance of what Diamond Valley is. So I'll leave it at that and let Mahak really talk to the project here. So
Thanks, David. Can go to the next slide. So a little bit more about the PBA group. So we've been around more than 60 years, and what I want to emphasize is that we are not a fee developer. We own and operate our developments, and that's what we want to do with this project as well. So we want to be a partner in this project, for the long term, and that forces us to be a good neighbor as well. And this slide actually shows some of the hotels that we own and we have developed ourselves, and we're really proud of the Dorian, which is the only Michelin Key hotel in Calgary. We got that Michelin Key twice in a row in 2024 and 25. Next slide, please. So the proposal is for a single-story hotel, which is going to include a spa, a restaurant, and an event space with 84 guest rooms. So the project is ambitious in its quality, but it's intentionally modest in its physical scale and has been thoughtfully designed with our neighbors in mind. Go to the next slide. So there are 5 core principles that actually informed our concept: the authentic Western Canadian identity, conscious sustainability, community connection, elevated guest experience, and the integrated spa retreat. So together, they create a destination that belongs here in the foothills. And it gives the visitors the reason to spend and stay in Diamond Valley. The next slide, please. One thing that I can say with confidence is that it's not going to be a generic hotel. A lot of thought has gone into making sure that the architecture responds to the character of Diamond Valley, to the heritage, the Western heritage over here, and the unique character of foothills. So the goal over here is simply to create a building that belongs in Diamond Valley. Slide, please. So this is the site plan for 84 room hotel. One would think about 84 rooms would be on a multi-story building, but we're doing the opposite over here. We've gone horizontal with our plan, so everything is on a single story. The entrance would be from Hubert Street, or the Northern Laneway, right north of the property, and the common spaces in the public areas, are concentrated centrally in this plan. And you will notice that the rooms are surrounding the common areas. And most of the rooms will have their own private patios or backyards to give that intimate connection with the landscape and the open sky. The warehouse and the house on the southeast corner, these 2 buildings will actually be subdivided from the hotel property. So the red line that you can see is basically where we are proposing the boundary to be. So I'll quickly go through some of the renderings, beautiful renderings over here. I don't want to spend too much time, but I would encourage council to look at the repeating themes over here. The natural material, the well-thought outdoor spaces, that connection to landscape, and the architecture that belongs to this part of the region. So this is the entrance of the hotel. And if you could go to the next slide, please. This is basically you're looking east from the check-in area towards your lobby, and you can see the Eau Claire District warehouse across from the garden. Next slide. This is the corridor that connects the common areas with the rooms, the guest rooms. And this is a row of guest rooms on the east side facing the church. And this is basically when you're looking southeast from the northwest side of the property. And you can see how the pathway is going to connect all these guest rooms around the property boundary. Another view of the guest room. And this is looking south right from the parking lot, right next to the entrance. This is looking out from the guest room into one of the private courtyards. So almost like 85% of the rooms will have a courtyard like this, and they will be programmed differently to provide different experiences to the guests. So the second pillar is the conscious sustainability, and sustainability and resource efficiency has been at the core of our decision making in this project. From low temperature heating, efficient window to wall ratio, wood frame construction to minimize thermal bridging, energy recovery, as well as potential rooftop solar PVs. We've given a lot of thought into making this project sustainable and efficient for the long term. Oh, you went back. Actually, it's the next one.
There we go.
Yeah. So one thing that was made clear to us by the administration was, the concerns the town has with water consumption, and especially that we're proposing a spa at this location. So we took it very seriously on us to explore options that would utilize the minimum amount of water in this hotel development. So we have narrowed down to a system for our pools in the spa that would actually allow us to use reduce our consumption by 97% when compared to the traditional conventional filtration methods. So we're taking it really seriously to make sure that we're not using more water than we have to. We'll also use smart faucets, efficient ways of irrigating as well, the landscape. Plus we'll be having native and drought tolerant planting all over it so that we don't have to irrigate them too much. The other thing that we really took seriously was to study the impact of this hotel on our neighbors, and to make sure that this development has the minimum impact or a good impact actually on the neighborhood. We commissioned quite a few studies, noise study, traffic study, even lighting study, and parking study. Both the noise and the traffic study basically confirmed that there won't be any significant adverse impact of this, like especially on the residential side of the neighborhood. And our lighting strategy actually prioritizes the dark sky preservation. And our parking study basically guided us to come up with the parking count based on the future demand for this hotel, as well as the Eau Claire Distillery properties to the north. So we have accounted for both, not just the hotel, when coming up with the parking spots on these lands. In addition to all that, we're also focusing on the well performance certification, which basically focuses on the indoor air quality, water quality, and thermal conditions, and the overall wellness of the occupants. So we're targeting sustainability from the wellness aspect as well. Can we go to the next slide? This is a really interesting slide that I really like, is that it shows our development in context to the neighboring properties. You'll see that it sits really low and it doesn't dominate the site. On the right-hand side is the existing house, right at the end. And on the left-hand side is the existing church. And you'll see the hotel actually sits lower than these properties, so there won't be any negative impact on the neighboring existing properties. Next slide, please. The other thing that I'm very happy about is that our 5 strategic pillars align really well with this with the town's design guidelines. So we're addressing these guidelines at the same time when we're talking about the 5 pillars that guided our concept on this program. This is another rendering that shows the guest rooms on the east side. Basically, you can see the materiality and the scale that we're talking about over here. Another view and the relationship with the landscape and the path that's going to run around. So this is not just about developing a hotel over here. For us, it's going back to that question about how do we make sure that we can contribute to the economy of this town. So it's about creating jobs during construction. It's about full-time positions after the hotel is complete. And it's about making sure that Diamond Valley becomes one of the major tourist hubs in Alberta. And this is what we're trying to do with this development. This analysis was actually completed by Travel Alberta, and it shows the economic impact this development will have on this region. These numbers are a little bit outdated because they were completed in 2024, and the numbers, if we do this study again, would be much higher. But you can see the impact on the GDP, the employment that it's going to create, and the tax base that this development is going to create during construction. And the second slide, sorry, go back. There were two tables, sorry. And this one actually talks about the cumulative economic impact of the visitors spent after the construction would be complete for over the 5 years. So these are like $31. I actually really like this rendering because it shows the open corridor and the connection with the guest rooms on each side. So it's about, again, it's taking us back to that same question: how do we convince folks to stay within this location? And this could be done through the stay at one of the 84 rooms. There would be a spa where the guests could relax, restore, and reconnect. They could gather in a restaurant or a conference room and the event space, or they could explore, everything else that the town has to offer, such as the distillery and other local businesses over here. Next slide. And the last pillar is our spa, which is the core of this development. So we think about this hotel as a spa resort, not a spa that's in a hotel, but a hotel that's built around the spa. And it's been designed to offer public and social wellness experience over here. And I want to emphasize that this is not just going to be for our hotel guests, but this will be will be open to the residents as well of Diamond Valley, right? So there's as well as the restaurant and the event space is something that even the local residents would be able to use it on a daily basis. And that's about it. That's my presentation, and I'm happy to take on any questions.
Well, thank you, Mahak. How do you spell it? M-A-H-A-K?
M-E-H-A-K, Mahak. Yeah.
Well, appreciate it.
Mahak. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation and the partnership that you have with Eau Claire Distillery. I didn't realize that you will be, or PBA Group will continue as owner-operator. That's quite unique. When I think of the decision before us, council, we want to really make sure that we understand that, and I think it's been well identified, even stated by our own administration, that we have a decision in front of us that really definitely impacts our community in a very significant manner. And when you look through with the investments that your team is making, but also what the results will be, thank you so much, Travel Alberta, for the work you've done in showing us that economic impact. This has been something that's been on our radar for some time. I know David used to be part of our Economic Development Committee and was starting to bat that around about 5 or 6 years ago, and just seeing what would go on. I have a little bit of history with this, but not involved personally with it. But when I lived in Whitby, Ontario, the corner of Taunton Road and Highway 12, it used to be Cullen Gardens. And if you want to look into it, there's a Nordic Spa there now, right in the community, and massive houses around it, shopping centers right next door. And it's been very well received in the community. But we have a lot of questions. Any specific questions for our architect or development team? I know we have the architect online. Anything that we have here? Go for random.
It may just be me, but I really don't like the name Hubert Street.
And that's on every single piece of material that you'll put out. We work with the applicant to come up with a better name for Hubert Street. I am sorry, Hueys or Berts in the room, but
Well, you know, I'd
That's
love
what
to
it's
hear from
currently
Hazel. What's the history with
Yeah.
Hazel?
I don't know, but I think there needs to be
That's not
something
random. That's
more
something I think,
fitting for the development of this
but
scale.
you know, even to that note there, Councillor Holiday, we just been looking at a street naming convention, right? And I'm sure that's under our
I'll
purview.
put that motion.
I think we can put that
At the
motion
end.
in. But do we have any other comments here, team? Go ahead, Ted. Councillor Bailey.
Just comment, I very much appreciate the attention that has been taken to some of the things that I am quite worried about any development. Noise, the impact on the local traffic, including parking, light pollution, you've addressed that, and water use. You've obviously taken a lot of care, a lot of time, taking a look at these things that concern me and I'm sure concern other people. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said.
If I could just say that, you know, being a resident here, you know, and having to live with whatever development is gonna be here, makes it very important for us to be on site.
Yeah, and so council, as we start our discussion and work through the decisions we need to make, I will make this comment before we have these gentlemen dismissed. Business retention and expansion is the driving factor for revenue, non-residential tax revenue increases in a small community. The percentages are off the charts. Business retention and expansion drives well over 90% of any revenue generation increase in a small community. Attraction of new in a town the size of Diamond Valley is less than 1%. And so having this with Eau Claire, the expansion, having a new partner come forward, that's quite significant. And we need to consider the economic activity that's being created, the increased property tax assessment. I haven't seen those numbers yet, but I don't know if Lisa has taken any shot at what the potential assessment might be, but that's a significant amount. I do have one question before you're dismissed. Should this project be approved tonight, this development permit, what's the timeline when you want to have the doors open? What do you see in a perfect world?
You got one of my questions.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
Well, you should have jumped in.
Well, I was waiting for you to be done.
Okay.
Yeah, so we wanted to be open by 2028.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, start construction later this year or starting next year, and it's gonna take around a year and a half of construction to complete it. Have doors open in 2028.
And the reason I asked that question, that's a significant timeline. On the south side of Black Diamond, former Black Diamond, south of the hospital, we have a commercial development coming in there. That's going to be a significant non-residential tax boost in 2027. They're opening some of their doors. This then coming online in 2028 is very significant for the future health of Diamond Valley, and very significant amount here. I love the job creation that you've identified over the course of construction, but as well, once it's up and running, you've got more jobs in town. And then the tourism benefits, they're off the charts. I did some work with Foothills Tourism a few years ago, working with their strategic planning. And we were noting the different tourism elements there within Foothills County. And well, perhaps we'll have, I know we don't have time for Ken to speak to that tonight. We'll have him come as a delegation at another time to present the Travel Alberta's focus on the region here and what that means and how we can be a lead in that. Very significant opportunities. And then lastly, I think David mentioned it, there's some long-term spin-off benefits with other businesses generating from this. And I'm excited about that, what that looks like for our community. So on that note, we have some more questions. Fire away, keep going.
I'm just wondering, do you know the approximate cost if that's going to be to stay at the hotel? And the only reason I ask that is because we host lots of sporting events and stuff where families that are already coming here, traveling across Alberta that come for tournaments, basketball. Is this gonna be a feasible place for a team to come and stay, or they're gonna be shipping back to Okotoks? Like, does that actually solve some of that problem of keeping, that type of
David's got a good
clientele?
answer.
A little bit depends on the time of year. I mean, obviously, a hotel like this, for summer is gonna be at its maximum, per day room rate. But when teams are traveling, who knows what happens in the winter, so. It's always a challenge in the tourism business is to make sure that hotels are busy in the winter. It won't be, the spa is not designed to be, the family place for, it doesn't have water slides, but it, but certainly we want to, yeah. Sorry, I have to break it.
You could really solve our pool problem.
I'm gonna point out, probably completely separately, but there is another hotel in town that is under development as well, like the original hotel is being renovated.
Right, good question.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Councillor Fleming and I were in with the Minister of Municipal Affairs a few weeks ago, Dan Williams, and as soon as we got over begging him for $1 million, his first question was about you and making sure that we had the support for you. So that you've made it right up to the highest levels of provincial government are aware of this project and keenly interested in this. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, they've been very supportive.
Yeah, well stated. And I think that really highlights the impact of the decision we're making and the impact of this development. If we have any other questions, go ahead, Hazel.
Just a quick question that I don't know if it's really related. It's gonna be dust control, because you're right on a back alley. Is there gonna be some improvements made from Hubert into the site?
I mean, yes, we are improving, and that's part of what was in the package. One of the things that I think that, big projects like this, by the time between now and construction drawings, things will change. And so some of your questions about, will we come back with something? I mean, maybe we change the number of rooms. It might have to be, between 80 or 100. And the same thing with some of the things on Hubert Street, whatever his name is now, is there's upgrades that are envisioned there, but we have to, at great cost, have to bury some of the power lines. And so some questions around cost of that, how we're going to deal with those power lines. But it doesn't really go on because we have to have.
But I'm thinking especially at those residents, you're bringing construction vehicles in, and we've all seen construction going on. Here's mud track all over. So I assume that would be up to your responsibility to ensure that is cleaned up. But
We will come up with a construction management plan and we'll share that with the town before construction begins. And construction won't start until, unless we satisfy the town with, how we're gonna mitigate all these issues.
because I'm really concerned because that is an older part of our town, well-established neighborhood. A lot of those people have looked out on that open field for many years. And to see it being under construction and then being, jeopardize their life, I don't personally want to see that.
Yeah, to that point, and I saw Ms. Florazone nodding in agreement, any development permit has management elements in that with construction, with dust, with noise, with what can be on site, access points, all of that will be part of the overall plan. Those would have to come forward. I do have one final question, and I think it's worth noting. Councillor Holloway mentioned the concern she had with the condition about not clarifying exactly what changes might have to demand another development plan. If we were to move forward and without going into any detail, making any changes at all to the notice of decision, what barriers do you see within those conditions that we should be aware of?
There are a few. To begin with, the first one, which David mentioned, is about improvements to the laneway. It's quite restrictive right now. It just puts the onus on the developer that you have to improve this laneway and vary the lines. We are still in the process of understanding, what economic impact that's going to have on the project's feasibility. So if the notice of decision can be that restrictive, would just help us on that side. Plus, there's this charge that gets triggered because of this new DP application, around like $47,000. My understanding is that that's because of a previous DP application that said that if there's any change to this condition, the existing condition on the site, then the applicant has to pay $47,000 because that's going to reduce the number of parking stalls that will be used by a property on Sunset Boulevard. But in this case, we are actually improving the condition of the site. We're providing more parking than there's already available right now. So I would request the council to reconsider that charge, and if that could be waived from the notice of decision, that'll help us.
And part of it is this, the notion that we actually are not discussing the subdivision during this application.
Right.
But subdivision is core to it because those parking stalls actually increase after subdivision. So by not doing it at the same time, we're kind of, we're creating a $47,000 charge that shouldn't really exist.
And then the last piece, which we've discussed a little bit, is about having some flexibility in terms of the room count, because it's a massive project, right? And every decision, and you don't know what you find, when you start developing and constructing these things, right? And it has such a profound impact on its economics, right? So having that flexibility in the DP approval just helps us a lot, because then we don't have to come back again and again for small changes. So if you can get like maybe 100 rooms approved right now, that'll just help us down the line.
Because your point is well taken about the having to keep coming back with minor changes, the variances versus a full development permit. There will be new iterations as we develop this, when we have a brand that is demanding certain styles of things within the hotel, there'll be some changes. So we just need a bit of flexibility and have administration be able to make some decisions themselves rather than always having to come back to you guys.
Please.
So changing the room count, I'm assuming the whole reason that it triggers a DP is because it has to be recirculated to like our fire and emergency services. I'm assuming they're the ones that care the most about changes like that. But having things handled more internally, absolutely, it has been the way this council has been going. So Carrie, can I ask you about that? And how would you handle it if it didn't, on a normal application that wasn't DC and somebody wanted to change the room count, it still has to be recirculated?
Through the chair, I just want clarification on the flow of the meeting. Do you want me to answer the questions as they rise, or would you like to dismiss the applicant?
I'm comfortable managing it the way we are.
Okay, cool. So the reason that we have material changes listed as a standard condition in development permits is because a development permit is a legal document between the municipality and the developer. Where we stipulate items that are regulated under the land use bylaw, like parking, like building size, building layout. If we were to change the number of rooms after the fact, it would trigger that material change. We're changing the number of rooms, which changes the number of parking, which changes the site plan. The site plan that is approved by council, or in this case, as the prior to release, that would be approved by me under the direction. When there's a change required to a site plan, that is a new development permit under the requirements of the law, under the MGA. There's nothing at law that allows us to vary a development permit after it's been issued. That would negate natural justice, because if there's an expectation that something is to be built and then there are changes made to that permit, whether it's a suite in a house, a hotel, a hairdresser, any number of developments, the issue is that if there is an understanding and basically a contract formed between the town and the developer that this is the thing that we've approved, this is what you are going to build, this is what you asked to build, and then it changes, it triggers a new DP. There is nothing in the MGA that allows us to vary that development permit after the fact. That's why it requires a new DP.
That makes total sense. So hypothetically, if I'm hearing correctly, that one where it says maximum 84, if we change that to maximum 100,
then my expectation is when I receive the revised site plan, that it will show 100 rooms.
But if it says maximum and we come a bit lower than that, because we don't know if it's gonna be 100 or not right now, like, so.
Yeah, so the requirement is also to develop in accordance with approved site plans, floor plans, landscaping plans, all the plans. And so when you start changing plans.
yeah. So I'm trying to think of like Mayor Kelly put it in an email today, because of the nature of this, there's a way that, he encouraged us to really look at where the flexibility can be. Using his words here, we're gonna have to be flexible to find common ground. So if we were to say, we change it to 100, then prior to, if I'm understanding correctly, the amendment would have to show that in the site plan, or if he came back, if Mahek and his team came back and it was 92 on that revised site plan, would that have to come back to council, or would that be acceptable? Because it fits within the maximum 100. Because I would think it's because by law, maximum 100, revised site plan that you would get, say, 2 weeks from now, shows that, hey, they're gonna go with 92, and that's good to go. I understand, because in my mind, it works, because the law that we dictate in the development permit, and then the revised site plan has to match, or it has to be within that parameter, and that parameter fits.
My request then to council would be very clear in your intent with the condition that when it then comes back, that I don't have to interpret it, because it is a direct control district, my interpretation ability is very limited on that permit, because it is the will of council that has been directly stated to the applicant. It is not my role to interpret it.
So, to hold that thought there, Cindy, I'm just thinking of the motion,
Yeah.
that we would amend that condition to show maximum 100 rooms with a revised site plan identifying the final amount or something like that. Just a very simple motion, so there's no room for interpretation. Would that work?
So if I may, there is no motion to adopt the draft as presented. So
That could be an amendment.
yeah, so we may just want to look at, approving it with changing this, that, and the other things in
Okay.
it.
So that would be my motion. So that would be the first change. Okay. Sorry, Cindy, I just want to capture this.
Yeah, I was
where
just
we're
trying to
at.
think of how to put it in the notice to decision itself versus a separate motion that's not tied to it, just giving variance authority.
I think that's a
In the
separate
notice of
motion.
Decision,
Yeah,
can you do that?
no,
No.
not with it being DC, we can't, right?
Alright.
Okay, so I think that's the first one taken care of, the change to maximum. We'll dismiss you gentlemen. Thank you so much. Valerie, thank you so much for joining us. I didn't get any interruptions if you wanted your 2 cents, but thanks for joining us. So we have that
having me.
to allow for that. So thank you so much for the work you've done, administration. Again, thank you so much for helping us here. And as we go through our discussion, I do expect Ms. Florzone to interject to make sure that we're doing things as legislated. The MGA is a wonderful document. It's anyway, it's a wonderful document. Go ahead.
So at this point, we were not requesting revised floor plans because we thought we were established at the 84. I do believe that it would work if you set the maximum at whatever number you're comfortable with, and then add a prior to release submission of a revised floor plan to the satisfaction of the planning and development manager to include or to be updated with the final number of rooms that will be developed, something to that extent. So that when I do finally approve the floor plan, that is the floor plan that they're going to build.
So we'll maybe if you want to type that in and send Iris a quick note on what we want there. I think that's a good flexibility with the development team, because if they go beyond that revised floor plan, based on the law and how clear the law is, then a revised development permit would be expected. And I think that is comparable, or pardon me, it's a point of flexibility on both parts. All right, what else do we have on the table? I've got a lot here, but I don't want to lead.
I wanted the backs reminder, even though I know I was on council with the whole parking in lieu and previous decisions. And then we changed our removed parking requirements. And then we amalgamated and the Black Diamond side doesn't have any. And so, I don't know, Carrie, if you've refreshed yourself on all of the steps here along the way. And there looks to be a huge amount of parking in here, but I know it's supposed to be 1 per room. So if you up it to 100, there's probably more discussions to be had. But it looked like there was like 170 something or something. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So it was before we've removed parking restrictions or parking in lieu or downtown parking. So if he had come in for that application after we had made that change, he would never have had that in effect, is what I'm right? Okay.
The site plan as shown, administration is comfortable with the amount of parking and the layout of the parking. We've dealt with some valet and the ability to stack parking to help add a little bit of parking to the site, as well as the requirements in the district for the warehouse. Honestly, are a little bit insane. So we're comfortable recommending to council that the parking on the site we're comfortable with at this point.
And removing the $47,000.
Is totally at the discretion of council.
I got that motion ready to go, but if you want to write it, it's good.
I know when we're talking about removing power lines, like the scale of that versus the 47,000, like it's not even a comparable conversation. But the tough thing is current town as it is, doesn't need anything done with those poles, but they are an eyesore, and we've asked before in the past as councillors the cost, and we just went, oh no, there's no way we could do it. So yeah, the 47,000 is easy. The Hubert Street. Name is easy.
So you want to add that as, don't lose sight of that motion.
Are tough.
Yeah. Before I jump in on the infrastructure improvements, what thoughts? Colin, I'm gonna ask if you have any thoughts, considerations, concerns, as we've been discussing this. I want you to give, if you have some insight, feel free.
I honestly have no concerns about this. It's pretty exciting. This is something I'd like to see as, I've talked about wanting to clean up our town and give it a bit better vibe. And I think this is the answer we're kind of looking for. It gives us the tax dollars, it gives us the jobs, it gives us the places for our families to come stay, it gives them a reason to come visit. I've got friends from all over the world. This is, I think this is going to be really good for our community.
Yeah, super well said. So I want to pick up the discussion where Cindy has it on the infrastructure and, you know, when we look at the benefits of it, what works well, and so I've done some work here. I've got 3 pages, so bear with me. Actually, it's 4, but it's only 863 words, so I'll do my best. But when we look at underground utilities, they provide a better aesthetic. That's 100% true. They improve reliability because they're underground. They're actually a better manner in which to put your utility lines. Over time, maintenance issues, as Craig can attest, are greatly reduced. That's 100% true. Those 3 alone, I then have a qualifying question. Is this Nordic Spa the sole beneficiary of that? No, they're not. They're the primary beneficiary, but they're not the sole beneficiary. Better aesthetics for that entire community. All the surrounding businesses receive a better aesthetic. Improved reliability is for whoever is being served by those utility lines. And reduced maintenance issues, that's not just the sole beneficiary. So the same concerns I have carry over to the Hubert Street infrastructure requirements. The primary beneficiary, 100%, is the Nordic Spa, but they're not the sole beneficiary. And so a motion that I'm considering for that is really in line with both of those, is to remove them as conditions. That would be the first part of the motion, but then to consider a motion that is simple, where we direct administration to work with the applicants to determine the proportional amount to be applied to the developer regarding this infrastructure upgrades. I believe that that's a flexible approach. What that looks like over time, and we put it through the lens of the overall benefit to the town, the overall impact over time. Would there be an initial cost that town would have to bear? 100%. As Councillor Holiday mentioned, when we upgraded Sunset Boulevard coming down, we actually then did Gooding Lane, if you recall. And after the fact, we thought, well, why wouldn't we take those utility lines, do what we've done on Main Street with the black poles that are quite nice where we hang the flowers. Why wouldn't we do that entirely on that part of Sunset, especially the central business and the Gooding Lane? But after the fact, it wasn't feasible because I think, Craig helped me out here, it was about a 6 to 8 month application time to work with Fortis, and the cost was quite exorbitant after the fact. So my advice to council would be looking at removing them as conditions, but then adding it as a motion that the administration works with the applicant to determine that which is equitable. What is the proportional amount? And I think that would be, I think that does justice to both sides and to all parties concerned. That would be my approach. Go ahead, Councillor, Ms. Florzone.
If I may, is this in regards to draft condition 33A1 and potentially 2 and 3, 33A?
Yeah, the servicing and utilities applicant must enter into development agreement with the town to construct or pay for. Yeah, I would potentially probably ask for the removal of that.
So if I may, so through the development agreement is the primary tool in which we secure the financial or the physical construction requirements of utilities to service the site. So we will be requiring a development agreement. Hopefully that is the will of council, that we want that contractual backstop. It's very, very standard practice. It's enshrined in the MGA, and without a development agreement, we open ourselves up massively to just not having things done in accordance with our engineering standards. The rationale for Hubert Street being put on there as the obligation of the applicant is it's that one kind of block, not even a block, it's just one lot deep.
that serves the hotel anywhere else except to the hotel.
I think that I understand what you're getting at with that, but in my opinion, and trust me, my opinion and $2 will get you a cup of coffee at Tim's, right? But that's the immediacy, but the long-term benefits out. Because as this development comes in, there's empty lots already on Sunset. In fact, right across from Eau Claire, there's an empty lot that used to be a Quonset, right? And so I foresee over time that there's much more residual benefits that are much more than just affecting the primary beneficiary here. And I think that's been lost in what we expect with servicing and utilities. The focus has been on the primary beneficiary and not the residuals and who else benefits from it. And putting the onus of responsibility, the sole proportion on the applicant, I think is exorbitant and outside the bounds of what the goal would be in providing what these provide. So I'm wondering, and I'm asking because of the law, and I understand exactly what you mean. We want the engineering and construction standards that we have to be met. We want, another concern I have, if we have the sidewalk on the east side of Hubert Street, my understanding there is a utility pole there already. And so we would have to bury those or change, like, the sidewalk can't go within there with the utility poles there, so what are we gonna do? Go to the west side? So
Right.
I think, just a minute, I think we need to look at this from a much more flexible perspective. And I understand that they need to be part of the DP. And so I'm wondering then, the amendments that I would make would be Article A and B. I would put in a based on a proportional negotiation amount. Then we have construct and pay the proportional amount for the construction or improvement of a road required to give access to development. We have Hubert Street, we have the laneway, and then based on the proportional amount, construct and pay the proportion amount for the construction of the pedestrian walkway. Same introduction to Article C, based on the proportional amount, install or pay for the installation of utilities. That would be, I would see that as still fitting within the development permit legislation.
I'm going to start with the sidewalk. if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Please.
So the rationale for requesting the sidewalk on the east side, we talked about this at length in our internal interdepartmental meetings, is that the planning principle of connectivity from the site to the broader downtown core, people are going to want to utilize the east side of Hubert anyway. That connects more directly. It's the path that will be the desire line. They'll just have people walking on the grass. So rather than that, we thought, let's actually address that proactively. The pole can be moved, and then the sidewalk can go in where the desire line is naturally going to be, creating a better, safer pedestrian environment.
So at whose expense would that pole be removed for those two poles?
It's one based on our GIS, and it would be at the expense of the applicant as part of the development of Hubert.
Yeah, and that, I have a problem with that because that's town-owned property. I think that's a bit onerous. That Mayor Kelly pointed that out earlier as well, when it's town-owned utility, town-owned property. And I do understand, I know I don't want to assume where you're headed there, Terry, so go ahead.
Okay, so the other area that I think it's important to provide clarification to council is in a development permit application such as this, we do look to the MGA that requires or allows us to require that the applicant construct or pay for the construction of an improvement. So the first one is the improvement of a road required to give access to the development. Because of the volume of traffic, both pedestrian vehicles as well as any maintenance, garbage, delivery vehicles for the site, it was deemed that yes, an upgrade to Hubert to a more modern municipal standard would be required to support that development. This would be something very typical in any development agreement that would be coming through our department, not as a direct control. And in fact is
why some sites have been developed in the manner that they have recently. You'll see that there are improvements to local roads as part of that development agreement that support that site. Similarly with the sidewalk, the MGA allows us to request or require, in fact, that they construct or pay for the construction of an improvement for pedestrian connectivity that serves the parcel. So the north-south pedestrian connection from Sunset to the site. Again, people typically don't walk down laneways, so that's why we're asking for that pedestrian connection at this point, which would be very typical in anything that would be dealt with internally. And so while I'm not disagreeing that it is burdensome, these are very typical requirements for development, especially developments of this magnitude, that we expect to be able to kind of carry their own weight as they come forward. And I suppose my last concern then would be that applicants who are in the know, that see the direction of council in this meeting, that we then move forward and we don't actually get these upgrades built in a manner that we would typically be asking for in the future, because they go, oh, well, the counselor says to onerous, so I'm just gonna pay 20%. And I'm not sure how internally from an administrative perspective or from a budget perspective, we would manage that moving forward with capital projects.
Yeah, I understand that. And you know, in my work I did, I tried to look at other developments in the last 9 years that would be anywhere close to this, that would have a relation to, if we set a precedent by going proportionate, how would that be seen moving forward? I would counter that and say this is very unique. This is not infill where, for instance, on Royal Ave, and it's public knowledge, we, in the conditions that we put upon that developer, was that they had to put sidewalks in. And so in relation to what is expected here, I could counter that laneway argument, because where Eau Claire is and the way in which the outdoor patio between the speakeasy and their sales facility, that's a great laneway access. So I think it's a bit presumptive to believe that people will access the main part of Sunset by going off Hubert, when there may be direction and better option for them to just go 50 meters south and go through the patio. I just don't see that as being relevant. That's my opinion.
I just got a question, and more clarification. Is there an unwillingness of the applicant to pay for these upgrades?
Well, they mentioned that.
Yeah, they know, but
Yeah,
like,
so-
when if push comes to shove, we're like, if you wanna build this, you've gotta do the upgrades. Is that gonna pull the whole application?
Yeah, so to Councillor Bros, again, these are very clear expectations in the development industry, is to pay for access, pay for pedestrian access. When we render decisions, we render them in accordance with the MGA, our staff plans, our land use bylaw. We rarely consider the financial ability of the applicant to perform the job. We expect that if they've applied for the development permit, they've already done their pro forma and can likely pay for the requirements of that development.
We want it underground. They want it to look pretty.
No, that's actually council, that's actually administration putting that in.
What?
That wasn't part of their plan.
So
That's a
which,
condition that we put on it.
Oh, they want to pay for it. Why are we gonna?
I don't know that they are, because they mentioned it as barriers. That's why we're discussing it. Go ahead, Councillor Holiday.
so what are required, like, which of the power lines are required to be moved underground? Do we know that?
Okay.
At this point, the draft and the recommendation from administration is that the overhead power lines along the north property boundary be moved underground.
So just the two at their entrance, basically? Like, not the ones from coming all the way from Sunset over?
The way that the draft decision is written is any of the power lines along the north property line. if the pole on Hubert is a hindrance to the sidewalk, it is expected that they will come up with a plan to address that.
So the entire north boundary line, not just the entrance where the road is coming in and out.
That's how it's currently written.
Why the whole property line versus, to me, it's because it's an eyesore. I could see as you come into your entranceway, it's a great building. You would want that to look nice. But I'm just wondering why all the other ones have to be.
The condition was drafted with the understanding of the historical and current intent of council to continue to modernize our infrastructure, and that's why it was drafted in that manner.
To me, it makes sense because the alley is perfectly operational for its current use as of today. So if it needs to be, Hubert Street needs to be fixed. To me, that's reasonable. To remove all the power lines other than just like for the entranceway, to me seems like, yes, it would be nice, but we have overhead power lines all over the place. To me, I just the ones that are kind of the eyesore ones would be the ones I'd be concerned about.
We can change the wording of that, that's the will of council.
To me, it's part of the rural routes. We have power lines overhead.
Well, even to that point, I remember when we discussed why we didn't do the power lines on Gooding Lane to improve the downtown core of Turner Valley at the time. It was the town's dollar going into it, so we didn't do it. So now we're expecting the developer to do it because I still haven't got a good reason as to why.
It would look nicer for sure, but we just have, like, I'm looking at the Google map and how many other power lines are along, like, that you can see from that property towards the east, right? The church area, so to me, I think it needs to just be the entrance ones. It would be, I think having the upgrades to Hubert is totally reasonable in my mind. I do think the entryway ones, from a aesthetics point of view, I can see them not wanting to take care of those, but I can't see requiring every single one along the couple hundred feet or whatever that is to be removed.
Apologize.
Interim CEO Lisa.
Yeah, if you have a warehouse, you have no overhead power line right next to it, because a warehouse is a big part of that.
This is not my area of expertise, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I would, based on the conversation, I'm wondering if the council's recommendation to reduce the number of power poles that need to come down would be a better compromise than having a vague, yes, yeah, and that is more concerning to me from a budget standpoint. Like, I'm wondering if reducing that requirement to a reasonable, that you deem reasonable or council deems reasonable would be a better situation for council from a finance perspective.
Yeah, that's my hesitancy, because we agree to pay a portion and then the portion comes in like way higher than we were expecting. That's really hard to put on the taxpayers, because I'm like, yeah, underground lines are nice to have, but they're not a necessity. And with our strategic plan, we were going back to basic budget. So I think we need to be mindful of that let's spend a bunch of money so this looks pretty, but we still have gravel roads.
So to that point, we would have to define the number of utility poles that were expected. And if that requires a utility pole being moved on the east side of Hubert for a sidewalk, why not put it on the west side? So you don't have to move it, so you don't have to move a utility pole. I mean, if that's what we're going at. How many utility poles do you see there, Cindy?
There's only two that bug me. But I'm not an architect, not a planner. But I'm just looking at the map and I'm imagining as you're driving down with the beautiful building that those two on each side of the road there, the
Yeah,
entranceway
that's-
aren't going to
They're a
look
nice
good,
one.
right? But to do it along the whole side of the property, it is an alleyway, right? And you've got so many more cell phone or antenna towers and other power lines all to the east, so I think we need to be reasonable.
Go ahead.
I believe then what council is looking for is to change condition 4B to show electrical services at the entrance, the vehicular entrance to the site to be relocated under.
Is that the prior to release condition?
Yes.
Sorry, I was looking at the other one.
Sorry, it's such a big document, it takes like a second to get through everything.
'Cause then you're not driving underneath with it. If somebody comes in a big high load or something.
How many poles you count there, Craig?
Just two.
Just looking for Hubert and that cross, traffic, I'm seeing 3 poles that would have to be.
Or we could be more specific that the plans show electrical services between the southern extension of Hubert from the east, from the west to the east, within that road right of way, those poles be removed, which would then, when we actually get the plan, we can see what that looks like.
Craig, are you talking about the pole? Which was the third pole you're talking about? The two at the entrance and then,
Was technically the third pole you don't have to remove, but you're gonna have to use it as a drop down, so you're gonna have to adjust that pole.
so that it goes under the alley?
Yeah, and then you've got, if you're looking at the laneway from Sunset down, south towards, along Hubert, at the very end, you'll see the 2 poles. Those are the 2 that will be dramatically affected or have to be removed if you're looking to go underground. The power pole that goes from the laneway across Sunset, north-south, without doing measurements, you may be able to, they generally put those poles close to the property line. So the sidewalk may be suitable to fit in there, but you're still gonna have to drop down off that pole to go underground. So it's actually, when you look at it from that perspective, if you're not asking them to do the entire north line of their property, there's only a couple of poles there that would need to be removed. But it's by no means an easy task because there's 14 lines on each one of those poles. And there's also a set of transformers which would have to be put on the ground.
I'm willing to not do the whole north boundary. I'm willing to do.
Yeah, we need to amend that. I keep coming back to a question. These improve, because they're improvements, right? Let's be honest. Going underground, Hubert improvements. If the required improvements, and this is a question I had in my notes, if the required improvements primarily address existing municipal deficiencies or create capacity for future growth beyond this project, then how can we be equitable in applying this plan?
Yeah, so where there is a benefit to future development, we can do an endeavor to assist on title, which means that any development that comes, typically a 10-year timeline, that comes online within 10 years, that benefits from that improvement to capacity, will then pay back the developer that portion of capacity that they benefited from. But it does still require the developer front end. And as per the existing deficiencies in municipal infrastructure. When development comes along that does improve some of those, perhaps substandard conditions, it's very typical across the province to just say, oh, you need that upgrade to service your site to an expected standard. Your TI, your traffic impact assessment shows X number of vehicles, which requires an X roadway. We wouldn't need that roadway were it not for your development.
Right.
It's not in our capital plan, thus you must pay for it.
Understood. All right.
I think Carrie had the amendment
I'm sending it shortly.
to focus on the entryway.
And Lisa had one, did you not? We're just kind of getting numbers and stuff back, or there was any like, or we're just putting the portion out and not doing the portion one?
Oh, I didn't have a.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I just had my suggestion about from a budget perspective.
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on, why don't you, David and Mahek, if you want to come and join us? Because I did open the door for you to join us by asking you what the barriers might be. So you've heard the discussion.
So it's not simple.
No, it's not.
As you guys are discovering. But it's, we have had conversations with Terry Mahek has with Fortis. And so the challenge is that when you do that one pole, this is my understanding, then you're forced to do a pole on the other side of Sunset. So you're actually breaking a highway. That has to be buried as well. So I think it becomes more complicated.
Yeah, so the pool on Weaver Street, if we wanna bury that one, then the next one across Sunset, or what, it's to, be buried as well. That's what Fortis has told us.
If the sidewalk fits, I'm fine with that pole on Hubert, but that's where it has to drop down. Because it drops down there, so it goes across the alley to your property. So leaving it there hopefully is gonna be the work with the sidewalk, is what we're hoping. Pardon?
You'll be walking smack into it.
I don't know what your widths and dimensions are and all of that.
Go ahead, Frank.
So through the chair, it would be Public Works' desire not to cross Hubert with an underground line for a handful of reasons.
Exactly.
Obviously, we're cutting the road. But as we discovered when we redid that Sunset Boulevard and with TELUS with fiber in there, it's a very congested little corner with water line, sewer line, valves. We actually had to move a hydrant because of the congestion there. So again, doing the survey and understanding property lines and boundaries, that one pole on Hubert at that laneway intersection, ideally and preferably from my perspective, it would be the drop down.
If we don't touch that one.
Assuming we can fit the sidewalk without having to adjust.
So going back to my question, Cindy, you have it
There's a
open.
huge amount of
Why
the
wouldn't we-
GIS. Hubert Street has a huge, it's a pretty big,
Again, without doing that
Road
survey and
allowance, yeah.
confirming those boundaries, yeah, it is a fairly wide right
So-
away.
So because the development permit becomes law, why are we restricting it by saying Hubert Street Southwest on section 33, Article A, Article 2, or pardon me, Article 1, Section 1? Why are we including that must include a sidewalk on the east side? Why aren't we saying on the west side?
Through the chair, I've already sent the proposed amendment to Iris that just says the Hubert Street Southwest must include a sidewalk in the road cross section.
Okay, that works. Because moving that pole, I don't want to open up Sunset. No, I mean, that's nice and secure. Okay, that's taken care of. Continue.
Yeah, I think there are 9 poles that go on the other side there, which are quite, they are unsightly and they do have transformers. It is a shared alley. We better remember that it isn't all the hotel. That is a service alley that goes all the way from, like the trucks will come in to deliver through the alley to Claire, to the Weavers, to the Chuck wagon all the way through. So it is just to point out that it's a shared use. It's not just, so I guess the benefit, as you were talking about, would essentially be the project would end up paying it, but it's not for us benefit.
Yeah, that's been my concern with that, with the laneway, is that it's already serving many other businesses there. And the expectation of upgrade. I mean, you could restrict it by, I'm not even gonna get into that. Yeah, it's still my concern, the equitability and proportion of some of these requirements. It's not like a new laneway going in to service it. It's an existing laneway that we're expecting an improvement because of. All right, let's see where we're at, team. Thanks, guys, appreciate that. So if I'm understanding where Councillor Holiday is, in the development permit, we specify the burying of underground utilities to a limited portion. That would still give the developers a recourse to, if they so chose, to extend beyond the 2 or 3 that we're expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be on them. So what we're requiring is X, but they could do more.
I don't think that the administration would have objections to that.
Yeah, I know we would. I'm sure we would. I mean, and I get that. The aesthetic beauty of that does not just benefit this wonderful Nordic spa, and why I still would love. I totally understand CAO interim about the proportion element. I mean, how do we negotiate that, right? It's not like a development that's going in and we demand deep services and tie-in. This is quite different than that. This has residual benefits to those who surround. And that's the element that I wish there was a mechanism that we could identify that would be equitable when we face this again. I mean, we've had businesses that have come in, we told them to tie in, they reduced their size because they didn't want to pay that tie-in. They didn't want to pay the upgrade. Well, that upgrade is benefiting just them. Where this upgrade is benefiting just more than the beneficiary. They're the primary, but there's others that will benefit from, I mean, even the residents will benefit from a more secure utility line. So I hear council. We have these motions here. I'm going to read them, and for the benefit of the applicant to hear what motions we have here. So the motion that is being presented, the council has worked through, is that council approve, and I'm not reading it, making the motion, I'm just reading it as the motion to see if council wants to amend. The council approve the application in accordance with the draft notice of decision as amended by replacing condition 4 Article B with, and this is the amendment, to show electrical services along the north property line with the entrance road to be relocated underground. Doesn't specify how many, it just specifies that it's supposed to show that. Now, do we want it to specify how many? Because that seems to be a little bit too, that's a bit ambiguous.
Yeah, but Mithika even said if Fortis had said if they had to replace one, they were required to replace this one. So if they pick their 4 and the Fortis says they have to do their 6, then that's, I don't know if we can tie a number to it.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
From my perspective, if I know where their entrance road is, because I do set the plans, any electrical within that entrance road will not be very, that is very clear.
Okay, and so that we have the, within the entrance road.
So that's really, it's, the minimum is gonna be those 2,
Whatever
however it
falls,
happens.
there cannot be
However-
overhead over their entrance.
Okay. And then the second amendment, adding under prior to release conditions, Article H, submission of revised floor plan to the satisfaction of the planning and development team to reflect the final number of guest rooms. So we're removing the maximum number of 84.
Yeah.
Address that.
Yeah, we need a.
Yes.
So we need to address that. So as you're working on that one, let's look at a third amendment. We're looking at condition number 23. And this is a complete removal of the parking in lieu fees, which I think is correct. And then the amendment to the restriction, or pardon me, the requirement of a sidewalk on which side, we're not identifying which side of the Hubert Street would be, have maintaining the sidewalk or creating a sidewalk. So we're just waiting on one other amendment. Applicants, how does that land? I know you need to take it away with your team, but is that something you can work with moving forward?
Sorry, give me the condition.
Come and take a look and read them if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Because I know we're working with several different parties here, and I appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, council has to work within our restrictions as well, Mehek. And this is where we're trying to be as flexible as we can within the law.
We really appreciate that.
What number do you want 84 amended to?
Mehek, would 100 be good to amend the maximum number of rooms?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Does that fit within where you can take that back to your team and work with them on that, Mehek?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a good flexible resolution. Awesome work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent, thank you.
We keep saying we've been working very well
No,
together.
you know, you have been, and I was actually that would have been my concluding statement, so you took my thunder. But that is one thing that we've tried for several years. And I know David Faird and I, around the Economic Development Committee, we've been really focusing on the working with philosophy and using yes as the answer and finding how we can come to yes. And we've got that. It's taken a bit of time. We've got an excellent culture within our administration. I want to say Ms. Florazone is the fourth planning director that I've had. So really appreciate what you're bringing to the table, Carrie, and how you're working with our applicants across the board. And focusing here on business retention and expansion, phenomenal. It actually says maximum already, so we're just strictly replacing the number in condition 12. So council, do you want to look at those conditions, make sure we have the numbers correct before we make that motion? Hazel, do you have any questions on that?
Just a little bit of curiosity here. Why was the parking in lieu originally put in?
So I did put the excerpt from the board decision. It was a requirement from the subdivision and development board in relation to a development at 123 Sunset Boulevard. Under that permit that was appealed, the board required that developers shall enter into an agreement with the town in a form and on terms and conditions satisfactory to the town, which provides that in the event the developer is in breach of the condition to provide the off-site parking and garbage disposal in accordance with the terms. Basically, they were required to provide off-site garbage and parking. If that off-site garbage and parking was never formalized, or if it disappeared, a sum of $47,500 as payment in lieu of on-site parking was going to be required from the developer. So because the parking from 123 Sunset was on this parcel, and we are now functionally removing that agreement, that's why this was brought forward for council's consideration.
You just carried it over.
Administration just wanted council to be aware that that was in the board's decision, and that you could do with it what you like.
Because we do not collect any off-site and parking loop on either side of the river anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're consistent with that. Good
Yeah.
point. All right, council, you guys had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah, I was just trying, but my computer's so slow. Was that, the 84 only mentioned once?
As a condition, it's mentioned in the report.
Is it? That's why I
Yeah.
was just wondering. I thought that was somewhere another time, but maybe it was just in the report.
My understanding, it was also in the report, but I didn't see it as another condition.
All right. That's my only concern. Just to make sure it's
I'll
not.
give Carrie a chance to double check.
It shows up once in the document.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Right on.
Okay.
All right. Cindy, you've done a great work on that. Why don't you read that and make the motion if you will?
Oh, I have to read the whole thing.
Yes, you do.
But I'm super excited about this. So that council approved the application in accordance with the draft notice of decision as amended by replacing condition 4B with show electrical services along the north property line within the entrance road to be relocated underground. Adding under prior to release conditions, H, submission of a revised floor plan to the satisfaction of the planning and development manager to reflect the final number of guest rooms. In condition 12, replace 84 with 100. Condition number 23, provide payment in the amount of $47,500 in accordance with the board order D01-20 from development permit 38-19D, whereby removal of parking on the site triggers payment of the parking in lieu amount, and replace 33A I-1 with Hubert Street Southwest, must include a sidewalk in the final road cross section.
Well read. Excellent. Council, I appreciate the discussions we've had. Any questions regarding this now? Go ahead, Ted.
If we change the name of Hubert Street to something else, does that affect?
That's a new motion.
Okay.
That'll come
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
Don't want it to affect the.
The development permit. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that would be, hopefully that's a simple change. That's too funny. Awesome. Councillor Fleming, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. You've read those motions. You get the final word there, Councillor Fleming.
I think this looks great. I would like everyone's input. It's very thoughtful, covering all the T's and dotting all the I's, you know. I look forward to this project.
All right, so I'll call for the question in motion. All in favor? Excellent, and that is unanimous, and that is carried. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. Thank you for the work that you've done. And we're gonna have more motions, but I do want to thank you. And this is the joy of being on council. This is probably my favorite part, is really seeing administration and applicants work together. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. David, go ahead.
Can I just add one?
You may.
Because I went on ChatGPT. Edward Hubert Cunningham Craig was a prominent geologist of the town about the time that it was done. And I think there's a few streets named after him.
So that's why we have Edward, that's why we have Hubert.
That's the answer.
So maybe we'll keep it then,
Well, no,
Cindy. That's awesome. But really, just to conclude that, thank you so much for the work that's been done. I know it's been really put to the top of our planning team. It's a leading file, and to get this done, I'm excited about what the potential, just full transparency, I'm excited about the potential tax revenue for the town. We have some major concerns in front of us. You know, it was mentioned by John Boyd that the pool has aged tremendously in its 65 years, and we need to up our tax revenue. So I want to thank those who are investing. I know David Farron is a lead investor. He's got also involved with Travel Alberta, those investing, the group that Mahek has represented. I do not take your investment in our town lightly. It's incredible that you're stepping forward and putting your hard-earned money into our community. Thank you very much. And as a direct control, we are here to support you. We do have our restrictions with the law, and I think Carrie has done a great job identifying that for us. So again, thank you very much for working with us and bringing this forward. Can't wait to see on the 28th. I showed my wife the things, and she said, maybe we don't have to leave town for our anniversary. And so that's the plan. So we might be there in July of 2028. Look for us when we book. So thank you very much again. But Cindy, you have another motion.
Funny enough, today is my anniversary.
Well,
We'd love to.
congratulations. That's awesome.
We'd love to spend it at the Kananaskis Nordic Spa. So this is quite funny to approve a new one here, because yeah, Twilight swims are pretty nice, love them.
Yeah.
So my motion would be that administration work with the applicant for the Whiskey Ridge Lodge. Is that, am I getting the name right? Hotel, not lodge?
Yeah.
Okay, with State Fair, and how can we just do that?
With the applicant.
With the applicant.
Probably pluralize it.
With the applicants, that works. To agree upon a name to bring forward council.
For Hubert
To
Street.
renaming Hubert Street. I don't know.
Upon renaming Hubert.
This has been a long night, my brain.
Guess what? This is under council purview. We have a policy that
Yeah.
says we can name as we wish. So
So-
this could be fun.
Not to agree upon a name, to present to council a new name.
Yeah.
For that small section of Hubert Street.
Because it's not going to extend past, right?
No.
So
So if I may, to council, Hubert Street goes from Royal Ave south to the subject site.
No, I don't want to
But
rename the
just
whole
a
thing. I
section.
just want to
Just
rename,
a section south of Sunset.
because we did that with John, you know, you had John and then it became Flair, right? So I just
Yeah,
want it to become something new when it
John
passes.
to Blair.
John
If I may.
Because
John
honestly,
around.
Cindy makes a great point. When you look at it, that Hubert Street's not extending past. So now we can stop it at Sunset North, that's gonna remain Hubert, but the south side, we can call it a lane. And something, because that fits our naming convention as far as municipal enforcement is concerned. So that would be my advice.
As long as I understand, because it isn't the renaming of Hubert Street, it's the
No.
renaming of Hubert Street south of Sunset.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's make sure that
Into
that's in
development,
the.
yeah. I don't want to rename other people's addresses. and
No.
Yeah, that's the last thing I want to do tonight. Yeah.
It's
so-
funny you should say that because my real property report has the incorrect housing number on it. That was changed 6 weeks after I moved in. But anyway,
Yeah, okay.
I'm still not over it.
A new name.
Is that good, Cindy? So think of a great name to have that shows the entrance into your wonderful new Nordic spa. Nordic Lane, I'm kidding, but is that good, Cindy?
Yeah, I mean, our naming conventions are in our policy on, but I think with the rural ranching and your history, I have no problems trusting that you'll come up with something great.
Yeah.
You'll be happy to put on your letterhead.
Go ahead and read that, Cindy, and then we'll call it a question.
That administration work with the applicants to present to council a new name for the section of Hubert Street south of Sunset Boulevard.
Works for everyone? You can be in opposition, that's fine.
Yeah, I am.
All right, all in favor? And all opposed? And it's carried. Excellent. Well, that includes that exciting action that only took an hour and 10 minutes, almost 2, but that's good. All right, thank you again. And we're going to recess for about 5 minutes, a bit of a washroom break for those that need it. And we'll reconvene here at past the hour. Well, thank you for giving us an extra 6 minutes there, bud. We want to move to 9.2, but before we do that, we want to have, we have an emergent item, and we need to have a unanimous vote to add an emergent item. So the emergent item we want to add for 9.7 is at the end of the season for the splash park, is have a doggy day. So before we can add that, I need to have a unanimous, I need to make a motion that we amend the agenda after the fact. So if I have, and I'm going to make that motion that council directs administration to amend the agenda after it's been approved. And so Colin, I will have to hear you say yay or nay here because it needs to be unanimous to amend the agenda. So
Let's
all
do
in
it.
favor, thank you, Colin. The rest of us council, all in favor to amend? That's unanimous. So we will do that, and then we will add 9.7 as a doggy day at the splash park.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
It's funny to
for
go
bringing
to
that up.
something else.
All right, so 9.2, council, I think the rest of our meeting here, we can kind of move through fairly quickly.
Yeah.
We have a 9.2
I
to purchase the traffic. Cindy, why don't you speak to it and give us the motion?
I think this is fantastic because in my time on council, how many times residents have come saying, everyone's speeding on my street.
Yeah, right.
But where's the proof, right? And we need to have a machine that does it. We're looking at consultants, 100%. I am
Yeah,
absolutely in
This
favor of
was
this
really
one.
good, especially with some of the Facebook posts that have been on lately about
Oh, yeah.
speeding and all this stuff. Now we
Yeah.
actually have something concrete that we rely back on.
And even to that point, some of our current traffic measures, when they're doing assessments, they are told, well, they're speeding nonstop, and it turns out that they're not. And the reality is, when you're standing still and a car's coming down the road, and it might be doing 30K, it looks like it could be 50 or 60. It's just perception, so totally agree. Any other thoughts, council? Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Is this a device that could lead to the 2027 budget?
May I? It could. This is an operating item. Truthfully, I'm bringing this to council because we're trying to work on financial transparency.
Yeah.
This was not included in our budget. I don't believe that it's gonna put us in a position where we're even gonna need to borrow money from reserves. I was told by Matt, and I'm not sure if he's
He's
still
here.
is.
Come on
Okay,
in, Matt.
I cannot see him, but that the intent to purchase it now is so the data in the winter isn't as accurate because people are obviously driving slower. So they would like to be able to capture school zone data. And then that would be beneficial for us to have it before or as soon as possible
Sure.
to get the school zone before the snow comes and the ice.
And how does this device work? How do you attach?
My turn now.
What do
You go. So this is a Pelican case, a black little case, has a built-in radar inside it, and it comes with a special strap that we can affix to light poles, traffic signs and stuff like that. And it does the dual band radar where it's getting a speed coming from both directions and gives us that data. As you see in the report, we have those flashing signs in town. They're meant to slow people down. The data is a bit different on those versus an officer on the street. It's just different way of doing it. The more covert way, we're getting that raw data. So Foothills County, it's used by a lot of different agencies to get that data.
Yeah, if you didn't know what it was, you don't know what it is. It's not like that flashing light. Well said. All right. Any other questions, council? All right, Cindy, did you give us the motion?
Yeah, council approved the purchase of the traffic speed data tracker in 2026 in an amount not to exceed 5,000 with funds coming from 2026 surplus if there are sufficient funds and if not to come from the general operating reserve.
Awesome. All right, let's call the question. All in favor? That's unanimously carried. Excellent, council. Good job. Moving on to the disc golf operating reserve. And so if you haven't been down there, we put in the tee boxes, which we didn't do last year. We wanted to settle. And with those tee boxes, we included the AstroTurf. And I don't know if you noticed, but there was a tournament this weekend and massively popular. And I'm pretty confident that the tee boxes are working well, Craig, as far as we know. I don't think I have to recuse myself here, but my son was part of the crew that worked for the company that installed them. And so he came and talked to me about it a couple of nights. He said, Dad, what do you think? And I'm like, hey, do what the boss tells you to do, bud. And so pretty sure they're working well. But any comments or questions on this, council?
No, there was a big tournament I talked to you on the weekend, over 80 players,
Wow.
people coming from as far as Wade, Edmonton, Brunswick.
Yeah.
Weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's very popular.
Yeah, and it's, as we know, it's one of the top rated courses after 1 year. So can't wait to see what that comes.
Did you happen to know what contractor's price was before the work began?
Yeah, through
that's a good question.
So when we started that project, I worked with the contractor with an understanding of what I had for a budget. And the initial invoice that came in was slightly over budget, to my understanding. And he did indicate that there is a little bit more coming, and we were aware of the limitation of funding, and he assured me it wouldn't be too crazy. And then, of course, wasn't monitoring, and we ended up with a couple more invoices that were a little bit shocking.
And sometimes they get into the work and they find that there's more work needed as well. Those things happen.
I do have a question on that. It is AstroTurf, right? So.
Yeah, so if you recall, if you're aware, Alderside Fieldhouse refinished all their field turf. And through Ian, I was informed that the Fieldhouse was interested in giving the old carpet away. So I coordinated with Public Works to drive over there, load it all up, or not all of it.
It's pretty massive.
Miles and miles of stuff, but probably enough to do this 3 quarters.
So we have enough in storage to replace over time.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that foresight. I was gonna ask
Or
that.
if you would like your council chambers.
Oh, that's too funny. So you've actually answered a question for me, but I will bring it forward. I know some disc courses are starting to use that recycled tires.
Or replace rubber.
Yeah. What would be the cost for that? Like probably 3-4 times as much, I would say?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's an interesting one. Yes, it is quite expensive. Generally, the application team is the highest portion of that cost. Alberta tire grants are available where they pay for 50% of the material, not the labor.
Yeah.
So the bulkier cost tends to be the labor and contractor mobilization. But it exponentially more money.
Very good. Well, we have 2 replacements in storage to move forward. So
Easily, yeah, as long as the mice leave.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, council, who would like to give this motion? Councilor Bates?
The council approved the payment of the tee boxes in the amount of $25,054, with $7,922 being transferred from the disc golf operating reserve and $14,632 being transferred from the general capital reserve.
Very good. Simple administrative task. Let's call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimously carried. All right, let's move on, council, to 9.4, and we've talked about this briefly in answering Dusty Williams' question about the final lift being placed onto this roadway just north of us. Simple recommendation here is to get this done. Council, do we have any questions regarding that? Go ahead, Cindy.
I just have to laugh that on Facebook, it came out that the second lift wasn't being done because we were out of budget, out of money. And like, it's just crazy how, because you're just waiting for it to settle, I'm assuming, to do the second lift. that there's a certain amount of time you have to wait, that all of a sudden it can be twisted around on Facebook that we ran out of money, when in fact we are under budget, $500,000. So generally, if it's a real problem, people will come to council, but if it's on Facebook, I'm assuming they just want attention, so we don't respond. So at least I don't, but it was a good laugh.
And if I may answer some of that through the chair, the reason you do your first lift, obviously you're gonna have settlement over the course of a year or two. So if you do your first lift, let everything settle. We're gonna have to raise our manholes, we're gonna have to adjust. But during that 2-year period, you find your deficiencies, and then you can cut your first lift of asphalt, make your adjustments, and then your final lift seals it all up. You don't even see the cuts. So that's why you wait.
So has this expected budgeted amount taken into account any of the cuts that have to be done on the first lift?
So that's all, so the cuts or deficiencies would be addressed, but yes, that is naturally been paid for through the first.
Oh, nice.
It's the second lift of asphalt and certain portions of concrete, because there's swales in there that need to go in. That's the additional cost for the final lift.
Love it, love it. Yeah, it's interesting, some of the recent social media comments about our town's finances. Yeah, we're good. Enough said. Who wants to give us this motion?
I can give you that.
All right, go ahead, Councillor Rose.
That council authorized administration to proceed with the First Ave Northeast, Northwest from 4 East Street to First Street Northeast capital project as approved in the 2024 capital budget, with funds to come from the water capital reserve in the amount not to exceed $150,000 and the wastewater capital reserve in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Excellent. And that's why we have reserves. And that's why we're doing that with our full cost replacement on these water and wastewater, so that we can actually get this work done and do it properly. So excellent motion. Any comments or questions on the motion? All right, let's call this to question. All in favor? Very good. That is carried unanimously. One other action item, and then we have a consent report to review, and then Councillor Bain's doggy day. But before we get there, a request to single source our assessment services. So very briefly, why don't you give us a brief synopsis, and then we'll make the motion.
Okay, so as per our procurement policy and electronic signature policy, I need council's approval to single source our assessment services. And just for information, that means not putting it out to tender engagements. There is a good reason for this. We've had the same assessor, I actually don't know for how many years. In my entire time with the town of Black Diamond, now Diamond Valley, it's been him, and Turner Valley, I believe, used him as well. He's got a really great handle on the assessment and has worked closely. We went through a very substantial audit in 2023 with the province. So this is his recommendation. He is retiring and as I noted in the RFD, earlier than he'd anticipated. So his contract was to the end of 2027. This firm he's recommending will honor his price, and he's unable to do it. So he's recommended them to us. We've had an opportunity to work with them somewhat, and they seem great, but then Doug has also agreed to continue to be accessible to them if anything is needed. So I feel like this is our best option for transitioning to a new assessor.
I would have to totally agree with that. Nothing works better than an introduction. And so I love this kind of a referral. Councillor Martin, you were going to give us a previous motion, so why don't you give us this?
By council direct administration to a single source assessment services with Benchmark Assessment Consultant Report, and enter into an agreement with them for 2028 to 2030 with an option for an additional year. So is that certain in 2027?
So we're still operating under the contract we have with Doug, and he has made arrangements for them to provide his services as he is unable to do so.
Nice.
But because assessment is there's a lag, right? We're gonna be starting the 28 assessments soon in 2027. So I'm asking for council to authorize that we enter into the contract for 27, 28, 29, I believe. Just because that actually will start right away for the 27 assessments.
So you have 2028.
Sorry, I'm like, yes, so thank you, 28 to 30, 27 is under our previous
Under
contract
review
that
right
we
now.
had with Doug.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions, council? All right, let's call the question to, all in favor. And that's carried unanimously. All right, Cindy, you wanted to pull the police report? So that's where we're at in our
Yeah.
agenda 9.6.
I just had a question on page 30 of 165. So I'm just alternate on this, so I don't know if Ted and Colin would have more background information. But I'm assuming I'm reading this right, is that they're saying, you know, right now we have 4 general duty detachment members, corporal, 3 constables. And they're saying on page 30 in this MPSA that they expect us in 2030 and 2031 to add 1 more each year. And to me, this is going to be a decision post next election, which means we might not be here. And that seems like a lot. So I want to express my concern with the report now, so that it doesn't, you don't get a new council that says, oh, this was already planned for, we agree. When to me, they say we have like expected like 2.5% population raise. And then they talk a lot about Kananaskis needing more, which we shouldn't be paying for Kananaskis. So I have a problem with that chart 1.2.1, adding 2 new, going from 4 to 6. Like that's, Lisa doesn't want to find money for it. That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't, if the need's not there, go ahead, Lisa.
It's my understanding, unfortunately, TJ's on vacation because he would be able to speak to this probably better than me, but it's my understanding that we have yet to be full staffed at that detachment. In fact, we just got $180,000 credit on our first invoice for their fiscal year, because their estimate, obviously we have to budget for what they're telling us, but they couldn't provide that. So then they give us their actuals and give us a credit going forward. So honestly, I think they're just covering their bases by projecting, but at the end of the day, from meetings I've sat in, ultimately council can say no.
Right.
So do I think you need to do that now? No, because like I said, to my knowledge, they have not been fully staffed to this prediction yet. So, but that, so when that happens, if they provide a contract saying they want to increase that, it's my understanding that council does have the right to say, we don't want you to.
Yeah, good point.
Is that when the new contract would come out, in about 2029?
So they send it to us every year. They send us this, and so this is just, it's kind of like our capital plan, how we forecast 5 years after. That's what this is. It's their forecast.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, it mentioned there that we might want to be starting to set aside contingency. Are we doing that, planning to do that for 2027 budget?
We can, yes, because as we all know, this is a huge portion of our operating budget. So then having to set aside, which we should, because they absolutely can come and request that. So
That's a great question about contingency, because in some municipalities, when they've got the pay raise, they've actually backdated it quite significantly.
Yes.
And it totally shocked those municipalities.
Yeah.
Like they weren't even aware that they had to fork over the dollars.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm just thinking in my head, I mean, that budget, we budgeted for the RCMP annual amount, and we are coming in under budget, 180,000, I mean, that's something council could consider and I can present
Roll
to
it
the
as a
budget.
contingency.
Yes,
Yeah,
We don't have a police reserve currently.
we don't, but
that would
Maybe
be,
that's
we
an
should.
option, you could put that money into a policing reserve.
would you mind noting that?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
should I
that's a
make
good
a motion
idea.
on that?
yeah, make the motion that
For
any,
administration to bring back recommendations on establishing a police funding reserve
I wonder if you could
for
be even more
contingency.
direct, Cindy.
for salary contingencies. I don't know. She knows what it's about. So
Well, Iris needs some support there in writing it.
yeah, sorry.
I think we just put it into the police reserve, let's create, actually.
Yeah, a motion to create.
Yes, please,
police reserve.
yes, please.
Yeah.
That
Would
council
you just
directs
like us to make
administration.
one?
Yeah.
Just start it and call it a day?
You can also make the motion, I just can't
create a
remember the
police
exact
reserve.
number, but we can make a motion to put any surplus from that budget line item into that reserve at the end of the year, when I
So-
do transfers.
That
So
council
let's-
direct administration to create a police reserve and put any
Using,
budget surpluses from,
The RCMP line
RCMP.
item, it's separated in our budget.
yeah,
perfect, just like that.
into,
That already says, so
Yeah.
create a police reserve using any budget surpluses from the RCMP line item.
perfect.
And then once it's generated, if we feel we have to budget even more, so be it.
It won't be just restricted to officers, it could be also,
It
it could
supports
also be
that.
for equipment as well.
Yes, that's why I would suggest in the motion not having it specifically say for
Salaries.
salaries,
Yeah.
because,
See, just a police reserve.
yes,
In case they come calling for.
something else, yes.
Great point, thanks for
Which could
bringing that
happen.
forward. Future thinking, love it. All right, excellent motion here. We've read it. Let's call the question. All in favor? Excellent, that's carried
I did have
unanimously.
one more question.
Oh,
That
go
was
ahead.
interesting. They mentioned in there that the provincial government's looking at opening Highway 40 year round. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and I went online and kind of did some research, and they said the province probably wouldn't, just because for the snow.
Yeah, I can't imagine how expensive that would be.
Yeah.
What I
So-
understand.
Well, there's method to their madness though. Go ahead, Colin.
Oh, sorry. What I understand to be true is also the migration of the big orange sheep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the little.
So
critters.
it's been a talk for many years. I don't think there's anything gonna come of it.
Nothing new. Okay, I just thought that was interesting that it made the report.
Yeah.
So, good. All right, that's all I had.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to Councilor Bain. The doggy days at the spray park.
My motion is that administration have the last scheduled time slot of the 2026 season at the spray park be open for dogs and their staff. Or should I call them owners?
They're movements, they're movements. For dogs and their humans.
And their owner, oh, well.
She went with humans. Yeah, we gotta leave that in there. That sounds so fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because it might not just be their owners, you know? Like, what if somebody's taking the dog for a walk, right? Their hand and their.
There's so many,
Whatever, yeah.
so many
You wanna
kids
leave
are
it in
having
humans?
kids now.
That sounds so fun.
We just have
Their
dogs.
dogs.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
And to speak to the motion, this is something that's done in several places. It's very well received. And with it being the very last event in the spray park, just the spray park, not the pool, then if there are any hygiene concerns, there shouldn't be, because the spray park will be finished for the season.
No worse than the deer will do all winter.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, this is great. Thanks for bringing this forward, Councilor Bain. It's a lot of fun. So we have the motion on the table. Let's call it the question. All in favor? All right, that is unanimously carried. So we have another closed session to go into, so I'll ask those in our gallery if you would be dismissed, please. And that gives us an opportunity to go into a closed session to discuss the land sale that we have in front of us. So that's exciting. We'll recess for like 2 or 3 minutes, guys. I don't think we need to take too much time. Well, thank you so much. If you're watching this, we've just come out of our closed session to deal with the land sale of the former town offices in Turner Valley, 514 and 526 on Windsor Ave. We have a motion here. I'll go ahead and make that motion, and then council will discuss their opposition or their favor of it. And so council is directing administration to accept the offer to purchase 514 and 526 Windsor Ave Northwest, the lots 4 and 5, Block B, Plan 8054, Echo Kilo, submitted by Haven Oak Developments for the sum of $1.35 million, subject to the terms and conditions outlined in the offer to purchase. So Councillor Fleming, why don't you lead us in this discussion of the motion that's on the table?
Okay. I don't agree with this motion because I don't think it's the right location for it, although we do need a building like that. One part of the location problem is that it is the furthest away from the newest development of commercial space, so it's not benefiting them because we don't have public transportation. Typically, renters may not have vehicles and stuff like that. This being the first offer within 1 month of the proposed, or once we put it on the market, this is our first offer 1 month in, and they're lowballing us with a condition of not moving forward or potentially not being able to move forward, and we won't know till February. So I'd like to look at other offers first.
Okay, very well said. Thank you. Your opposition is well noted. Anybody else that wants to speak to this motion?
Start with that side.
All right, I'd like to hear from each of you because this is a very important decision that we're making as well, because 1.35 million is not a small amount of money, and it goes very well into our reserves that we are trying to build. It does meet the divestment strategy that we've actually discussed quite a lot over the last couple of months. So why don't we go in order? Councillor Martin will go from my left to right.
Well, I'm gonna flip. Just listening to some of the comments made. We can get this money now and then get this project moving to get the housing that we know is gonna be needed. Like even in probably the next year. I'm in agreement of seeing this develop, accepting the offer from Haven Oak.
That's a great point. And, Councillor Martin mentioned some of the elements that we discussed were the potential tax implications of this, the tax revenue that we realize, the fact that it's infill, less infrastructure has to be put out by town, and we have almost immediate return in some of our utility fees coming back in. So the sooner we realize that, the better it is for the overall health of our town. So well said, Councillor Martin. Councillor Bain.
Although I do have some concerns about the price and the timeline. It has been on the market for a month, a relatively hot market, and we have finally received an offer. I like what Haven Oak is proposing, and I'm in favor of accepting the motion.
And to that point, I don't believe it's overstepping the bounds of what's been enclosed, but this is the only offer we've received on this property. And it has been a month. Some would say that's too short. Others would say, well, they've had the opportunities and have not moved on that. So well spoken, Councillor Bain.
Yeah, and it has been marketed effectively. I reviewed the marketing. Yeah, it's been marketed well. So the people that needed to see it have seen it and made a decision on whether to make an offer or not.
Well noted. Well noted. Councillor Rose.
I think even when I ran for council, part of my platform was having more diverse housing options for people to actually come here, and this gives us that. Kind of where Carrie and Lisa are saying, if we wait on another offer, possibly we're still losing that tax revenue at the end of the day anyways. I think this is a good offer. Yeah, especially with all the new development commercially that we're getting, and we do need people to come here and work those jobs, not just the residents that exist here. This gives more people an option to come here, so I'm in favor of it.
Well said. Councillor Holiday.
Yeah, I'm not as happy as I would have with a higher price. I think this type of purchaser is the least likely to land bank, which we know has been a problem. Their willingness to pursue CMHC, and if it doesn't work out, then I'm assuming the offer falls through and we put it on the spring market, which might be even hotter. So I think this is the type of thing we need. Turner Valley School population is going down because it's harder and harder to afford for young families. And so to have 68 units, that's huge in this spot. So I've changed my mind.
Open to persuasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I'll just make some concluding statements here. I have my reservations as identified by Councillor Fleming, the timeline, the amount that's being offered, where I lean towards a yes vote and have really changed my thoughts on this is our housing needs assessment, which we really wanted to get done a couple of years ago. It identified the certain gaps we've had in the housing models that we have here available. And this really meets a need that was well identified. Speaking with Councillor Rose, pardon me, the last 2 election cycles, I did door knocking throughout our community, and over again, one of the driving concerns was the diverse housing needs that we have. We have an older demographic, their children wanting to stay here, but not being able to with the housing costs. And so this will support what our future goals are. One of the major decisions we just made was approving a development of the Whiskey Ridge Hotel, which will need certain type of employment to be supported at an income level where these types of housing needs are met. So for that, I'm in favor of moving forward with that. So with that note, let's call the motion to floor, and I'll take your yay or nay, Councillor Fleming, but all in favor? That is 5. All opposed?
Colin,
It's
are you
me.
opposed?
Colin, are you opposed?
Yeah.
You can verbalize that. So we have 1 opposed.
I oppose.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So that motion is carried. We didn't record the vote as to who was favor or not, so that's quite all right. But it is carried. So we look forward to this being finalized and getting that update from administration in due time. So thank you so much. With that note, I don't see anything else on our table. So our meeting is now adjourned here at 9:28. Thank you so much.